Cover specs, really important. As I said in the design stage, your cover is separate to your content, so you want to make sure you've got the right specs for both kinds. One is colour. Now obviously you want your cover to be colour, you don't want a black and white cover, but do you want 4-colour, standard print process, some photographs on it for example, or do you want custom colours, a nice black cover with some gold embossed writing on it? You want to think about things like this. There'll be a difference in price, but there'll also be a huge difference in, once again, distribution channels and also how your book appears. Second is thickness. How thick do you want your cover to be? Standard size I recommend is 300 GSM. It's about what your business card is. It's a good thickness, it holds a sturdy cover, and when it curves around the book on the spine, it doesn't crack. The thicker the cover is, the more chance it's got of cracking. Now we can score it so that that doesn't happen, which is basically putting a line down the side of the book where it bends, but you don't want a book with a spine in front and back and lines down the side. So you want to stick around the 300 GSM mark. The reason I put versus the 80 GSM is I'm talking their perfect bound. But your case-bound book is more around the 80 GSM mark because it's a thicker board. It's actually a case, that's why it's called case-bound, hardcover book. The case is made separate to the book and assembled afterwards. These are two separate items, and that's why we can get away with a thicker thing. The other thing is like children's books, for example. You know those board books? Kids have them, you can throw stuff all over them and it wipes straight off. Standard board thickness is also 800 GSM because the boards are going to be thick enough that the kids aren't going to rip through them. Third is the stock. Just because you've got the thickness right, what stock do you want it to go on? We recommend either a gloss art or a matte art. Now, why do we recommend art? Because they're standards and economical to print on, good quality paper. Why do we recommend gloss or matte? It depends on your finish. Reason being, the finish we recommend is a gloss laminate or a matte laminate. Now, if you're going to have a matte laminate finish, it'd be pretty silly to print your book on gloss art. But you want these two to line up. You don't have to have a finish on your book, that is optional. But an unfinished book, whether it's gloss or matte, obviously gloss would shine, matte wouldn't, is not going to last very long. What the finish does is a couple of advantages. It makes it water resistant and sun resistant. Now that doesn't mean throw it in a swimming pool, but it means if you spill your coffee on it, you can wipe it off. It means if you leave it on your car seat for 3 days, it's not going to fade. Leave it out in the sun for 4 weeks, it's going to fade. It's a level. But what it also means is there's some protection there. You rub your book up against something, shove it in your handbag, carry it around while you're reading it, put it in your briefcase, whatever you're doing with it, it's got some durability. If you don't have a finish, the first thing it rubs up against, it's going to scruff. You know, you've seen those colours coming off and things looking terrible, or worse so, the effect it's having on your book. You don't want that. So we always recommend a finish. Other thing is content specs or specifications. Similar thing, colour. You want to know what colour your content is, but now you're looking at a completely different thing. You want to know black and white versus colour. Black and white is a very economical way to print, but if you've got photographs in your book, for example, it's not going to work for you. So you need to think about which choice of colour is right for you. You could, of course, do custom colours as well, but that's really going to put the price of your book up. Thickness. Once again, different case when you come to inside. I generally stay on either the 80 GSM or the 128 GSM. Now 128 GSM could be 130. It depends on whether you're using digital or offset because there's different standards. 80 GSM is great for black and white books. Now 80 GSM is the same standard thickness as your printer paper. Now why would you print a book on printer paper? I'm not sure. Why would you want to do it on something so thin? Except for the stock. We use wood-free. Wood-free is an international standard of stock. And what wood-free does is it allows you to actually have a slightly thicker paper, slightly better quality paper, but still on the 80 GSM, so it's economical to print. So it's a fantastic thing to have. The other thing is the 128 GSM. Now that's generally for your coloured books, your 128, your 130, and we recommend doing that in a gloss art as well. One, it ties in well with the cover, and two, it's a good quality stock. You can come and look at some samples afterwards. I won't hold them all up now, but your gloss art's got a little bit of a shine to it. It's that shine you're looking for. Your pictures, for example, will look fantastic from a photography point of view if they're shining on the paper. If they're sitting on a matte paper, a wood-free paper that's great for text, they'll die out, they'll get lost and sink into the paper more. So it's that finish you're looking for your coloured books. Fourth thing is pages. Now, I mentioned earlier that it affects other things, but it's important to think about here. The difference in number of pages of your book, even if you only go up or down by 4, will make a difference to the price. All the specs I've been through so far, they're relevant for your printed book. They're actually not that different for your other formats of books. You just need to tweak a couple of things. Just a few notes for you down the bottom. Audiobook, for example. You also need a few more specs. You still need everything we said, because that audiobook, it's got to be in a case. So you still need all those printing specs to display the audiobook. But what you actually also want is the length, how long that book's going to be. Remember, it could be a CD or DVD, that's the medium. You want to know these things as well. For your e-products, whether it be an e-audio or your e-book, all the specs are exactly the same. You just cut a few out. For example, there's no printing, so you don't need any binding specs. There's no distribution, for example, of the e-audio in a physical form, so you don't need, once again, any of the printing specs. You still need to know what colour it is, if it's an e-book, not an e-audio, but there's lots of specs that you can just reduce. You don't need to add any. Important things to note in the production stage. Medium needs to be matched to your target market. Now, what I mean by this is, for example, as I said before, e-products are fantastic, good value, make you lots of money, but an 80-year-old woman who's maybe never touched a computer is not going to buy one. So if your target market is someone that's in a remote location that doesn't, for example, have ADSL connection, someone in a particular age bracket that has never used a computer, someone that just really is too busy to worry about computers and is always moving around and wants to take a book with them to read on a plane, you need to make sure that you're keeping that target market in mind. Likewise, the other way around, you don't want to provide an audiobook, for example, on the Deaf and Blind Society. The blind people can hear it. The deaf people aren't having much luck. You've got to keep in mind your target market. Second thing is the book specs need to be matched to the distribution. Now, I mentioned this briefly before, but it is very important. You change any one spec and it's not a standard for whichever distribution channel you're looking at, and they may or may not take it. It might be that another channel can take it, and we'll come to that in a second when I talk about distribution, but you need to keep that in mind because, as I said, it's the most important step. You don't want to have these fantastic books that you can't sell. The third thing is to publish in one format at a time. Now, what I mean by that is you can publish in all formats at the same time if you want, but you don't have to. A lot of people go, oh, well, you know, I've got a dream, I want physical books and I need audio books because it's publicity and I want people to know I've got multiple formats, and yeah, we're going to put them both online and we're going to have this fantastic website, and you just got a really big budget project. But if you pick one format, which one's most appropriate for whatever you're trying to do with it, target market, keep that in mind, and you produce that product, you can make money from that product to fund the next one. And there's nothing wrong with your book coming out consecutively as you work through the various stages you want.